This video is brought to you by NetSuite by Oracle. If you're a CEO who's tired of using QuickBooks or you are dealing with the nonsense of multiple programs at once, upgrade to NetSuite to more effectively run your business. We have reached the end of the NFL regular season. Week 17 is here, and it's a very important week. Some teams are fighting for playoff seeding, trying to get the number 1 seed in the NFC or the 4th seed or whatever. And some teams are simply fighting hard to try to get into the playoffs at all. Now, what I want to do in this segment is kind of half predictions, half just a preview, because I am very, very excited for this weekend. I think it's going to be probably the best weekend of football we've had all year so far. And I am not a fortune teller. There are some games I'm like, I simply don't know. Giants, Cowboys. I really don't know who's going to win. I have no idea. I don't even feel comfortable making a prediction. So what I'm going to do is go through whatever games I can, make a prediction, and then for the most part, I just can't wait to see what happens, and I want to share my joy and my love of football in this segment with you guys. We'll start with the Dolphins at the Bills. This is a huge game in the NFL. I am so excited. Playoffs are on the line here. The Dolphins are 10-5. The Bills are 12-3. And the Bills, in my opinion, are a better team. The Dolphins have to play their best in order to make it into the playoffs. And right now, there are 5 teams in the AFC playoff picture that are 10-5. And only 4 of those 5 teams are going to make it into the playoffs. So the Dolphins have really the toughest road into the playoffs. They got to beat Buffalo on the road in Buffalo. Either that or, basically all the 10-5 teams have to lose their game in an upset fashion to a team that's not very good. So really, the best way for the playoffs right now to get in, the Dolphins have to beat the Bills on the road. And another interesting wrinkle in this game is that Ryan Fitzpatrick, their kind of backup / starting quarterback, tested positive for COVID. So last week, when the Dolphins needed help, Ryan Fitzpatrick came off the bench in the fourth quarter, led them to victory against the Raiders. And that's not going to be able to happen this week against Buffalo. If Tua's struggling or Tua's not cutting it, they don't have another option. So basically what I'm saying is, this game is all on the Dolphins' rookie starting quarterback, Tua Tagovailoa, which is, from a storytelling perspective, incredible. Like, what's going to happen? I don't know. And a lot of people have been very critical of the Dolphins for drafting Tua, saying they should have drafted Justin Herbert. I'm not one of those people. I would not have drafted Justin over Tua. I had no idea Justin was going to be as good as he is, so I'd be a hypocrite to say that I'm one of those people. I'm not. But the pressure's on, man, and I think it really, really helps Tua if he makes it into the playoffs. Now, some people are saying that Tua has to get into the playoffs in order to avoid getting replaced. I think it'd be kind of weird. Like, does getting into the playoffs really have to do with how well he's playing? Like, he has to play well, but getting into the playoffs or not isn't necessarily the only factor in whether or not Tua could have a great game and not make it into the playoffs. Then I'd say, well, I think it's a silly criticism. Now, I want to be clear. I only own one NFL jersey. One. I'm not a jersey person. I don't really do that. But there's one player in the NFL I felt the desire to go support and to wear their name on the back of my shoulders and to support buying their jersey. I own a Tua Tagovailoa jersey. I'm very excited. Tua's my favorite player in the NFL. Like, I got a lot of players I love. I love Tom Brady. I love Gardner Minshew. But Tua, because of the Hawaii ties, and I'm not from Hawaii, but I love Hawaii. It's like my favorite place in the world. And his family's amazing, and I've heard great things, and I know people that know Tua, and everything I've heard about Tua makes him, he's endeared himself to me. I really love Tua. And so I am rooting for Miami. I'm not ashamed to say it. I want to see Miami get into the playoffs. However, even though I'm rooting for Miami, I believe Buffalo is going to win this game. And maybe that is because I am trying to guard my heart and avoid disappointment. I really can't tell. I do think Buffalo is a better team. They got a great quarterback, a great defense. They do a lot of stuff very, very well. They have a better record, clearly. And the Bills are already in the playoffs. So if the Bills lose this game, they've won their division. They made the playoffs. I don't really feel bad for Buffalo at all. However, I would love to see Miami. Brian Flores, this young guy, this young coach, a second-year coach, turning around the Dolphins franchise. I want to see the Dolphins with Tua Tagovailoa, my favorite player in the NFL, make the playoffs. I don't know if they're going to do it. I don't think they can pull it off. I'm hopeful. I don't really believe in them. I really believe I'm going to get disappointed and the Dolphins are going to lose on Sunday. It's a 10 a.m. game. If you're on the West Coast, it's in the early morning slot in the NFL on Sunday. I think Buffalo wins this game, but I also can't really lose. Either, my prediction is right and the Bills win, or my prediction is wrong, and I'm very, very happy because Miami wins. So I think Buffalo wins this game. I'm predicting them to win, But I got to say, I am rooting heavily for Miami. And it's not a slight against Buffalo. I love Buffalo. I like what they're doing. I think it's really, really cool. But they're already in the playoffs. How about you share the love and spread the wealth a little bit? I want to see Miami get into the playoffs. That's an amazing story. I want to see that happen. Now, Titans and Texans. This is a very easy one. The Titans are going to win this game. They're going to get into the playoffs. Houston is awful. They're an awful football team. They have a terrible offensive line. They are the worst defense. They can't run the ball at all. Their receivers are disappointing. I do like their quarterback, Deshaun Watson, but it's really just a testament to how he's been amazing despite the awful mess around him in Houston. I would be absolutely shocked if the Houston Texans won this game on Sunday. Jaguars, Colts. The Colts are 10-5. The Jaguars are 1-14. The Colts are fighting hard to get into the playoffs. They need to win here. They're a good team. Very similar to Houston. I'd be shocked if the Jaguars beat the Colts on Sunday. Now, I will say, the Jaguars do have nothing to lose. They've already clinched the number 1 overall pick in the NFL draft, so they're free to play with reckless abandon. And that makes me nervous because Phillip Rivers makes me very nervous anyway. I think he plays very emotionally. He makes a lot of mistakes. I think that the Jaguars have a little bit more talent than anybody really gives them credit for. They've made very strategic moves, I believe, to kind of engineer losing games. I shouldn't say that. It makes people angry and controversial, but Mike Glennon. You're going to play Mike Glennon multiple weeks in a row. It doesn't make sense to me. So because the Jaguars had nothing to lose, they could say, screw it. Let's ruin a division rival, the Colts' season, kick them out of the playoffs. They might win this game. And I just would keep your eye on that game. The Colts should win, but the Jaguars, because of they got nothing to lose, that makes me very, very nervous. A team with reckless abandon, that could be dangerous. Now, the Ravens and the Bengals, the Ravens should win this game. They're 10-5. They're fighting for the playoffs. The Bengals have won 2 games in a row, though. But even if the Bengals play well and it's a close, competitive game, my belief is Lamar Jackson's going to say, hey, I am last year's NFL MVP. I have the ability to put the team on my back. I'm going to make play after play after play. If it's a close game, Lamar Jackson will take over the game and be the hero if needed. There is no way Lamar Jackson is losing this game and not getting into the playoffs on Sunday. Now, Browns-Steelers. The Steelers are already in the playoffs. Kind of weird. They're resting their starters. However, even though Cleveland is 10-5 and they need to win in order to get into the playoffs, the Browns have a ton of players out of this game due to COVID. And I'm picking the Browns to win a close game. They still have Baker Mayfield, but they're missing a lot of starters everywhere. They're a gutted team right now due to COVID. And at the end of the day, I think it comes down to who's got more incentive to win. The Steelers do not have a reason to fight hard in this game. They have a reason really to protect their bodies and stay safe and prepare for the playoffs. They're not going to get a bye week. They have to play next week. And I think the Steelers mentally are more focused on next week. However, because of the Browns missing so many players due to COVID, this is a dangerous game. The Browns should win. I hope they win. I want to see the Browns make the playoffs. It's kind of crazy to see the Browns, a team I have my entire lifetime. They've been horrible. I would love to see them make the playoffs, but they're at risk because of COVID right now. And keep your eye on this Browns-Steelers game. Could go either way. The Steelers are playing Mason Rudolph at quarterback. Remember, he got in trouble last year. There was a brawl last time Mason Rudolph played the Browns, and keep your eye on that on Sunday. Now, in the AFC playoff picture, you have 5 teams that are 10-5. You have the Titans, the Colts, the Browns, the Ravens, and the Miami Dolphins. Only 4 of those 5 teams are going to get into the playoffs. And I believe Miami is honestly going to be the odd man out because the Titans, the Colts, the Browns, and the Ravens play much weaker teams that have losing records and are not very good, other than, of course, the Browns play the Steelers, but the Steelers are already in. They're resting their starters. And so I believe Miami's the odd man out here. I think Miami's going to miss out on the playoffs, unfortunately. Now, I'm rooting. I don't want that to happen. I want to see Miami get in. But I will say it does feel like an upset is in the air. And I can't tell you which game to expect to be the crazy surprise upset. But it does feel like somebody's going to lose a game they shouldn't lose, whether it's the Browns or the Ravens or Tennessee or the Colts, maybe to the Jacksonville Jaguars. I just cannot wait to see what team of these 5, which one does not get into the playoffs come the end of Sunday when football is all said and done and the dust comes to a settle. And I can't wait to talk about it on Monday. I'm so excited for this week in the NFL. It's going to be amazing. Packers at Bears. This is another huge game in the NFL. If the Bears win, they're in the playoffs. And if the Packers win, they secure the number 1 seed. They get a bye week and home field advantage in the playoffs. That's a huge thing you want to win. So the Packers are fighting hard to win this game, and the Bears need to win. They cannot afford to go 8-8 and miss the playoffs. They have to go 9-7 to get in. And now, interestingly, the Packers left tackle David Bakhtiari just tore his ACL. He's out for the year. It's a big loss. However, I am hopeful because the Packers can survive it. They've won games without him earlier this year, and the Packers are still the Packers, right? They lose one key player. It's unfortunate, but they can shuffle around on the offensive line and be okay, in my opinion. So we'll see. It'll be a good test against the Bears defense on Sunday. Now, the story of this game, Bears hosting the Packers at Soldier Field in Chicago, is the Bears quarterback, Mitchell Trubisky. How does Mitchell Trubisky play? It's the biggest game of his entire life. He's fighting for his career to continue staying the franchise quarterback in Chicago. The Bears have won games with him as their starting quarterback this year. They have a winning record with him as their quarterback. However, Mitchell Trubisky has beat up on bad football teams with losing records. And I want to see how he does against a really good Green Bay Packers team, a good defense. Can he play well in a huge moment, in a must-win game against arguably the best team in the NFC? We will find out. We're going to learn a lot. This is we're going to learn the most we've ever learned about Mitchell Trubisky in this game, how he plays and how he does against a really good Packers team at home in a must-win situation. I'm picking Green Bay to win. I'm not sure that Mitchell Trubisky's up to the task to do what he needs to win this game. But I have an open mind. I'm willing to allow Trubisky to change my mind about him. We will learn a lot on Sunday. Bears hosting the Packers. Falcons at Buccaneers. I'm picking the Buccaneers to win this game. Not very controversial. The Buccaneers are getting very, very hot as the year comes to an end. Now, the Falcons are a good team. They played good football recently. I like Raheem Morris, their interim head coach. However, the Buccaneers want to win because the Buccaneers, if they win, they would guarantee the number 5 seed in the NFC playoff picture. And they would then play the NFC East winner in the wild card round of the playoffs, meaning they'd play the Giants or the Cowboys or Washington. That's an easier opponent than Seattle. Like you don't want to play Seattle. You would much rather, or even the Saints. You would much rather play, the Cowboys or Washington or the Giants than clearly, an 11-4 Seattle or an 11-4 Saints team. So keep your eye on the Buccaneers game. They want to win. They're hungry, and they're playing great football as the year comes to an end. And I want to say this. I was going to talk about it later, too. Of all the wild card teams in the NFL, the Buccaneers are the team that could do the most damage and really potentially win a Super Bowl. They're gaining a lot of steam. They're playing easier teams. They're building momentum. They got a crazy amount of weapons on offense. They got a Hall of Fame quarterback. They have really good players on defense that when the Buccaneers play their best football, they're amazing. They dominated the Packers earlier this year. The Buccaneers are capable of incredible football on their best day. And if they can make a run 4 games in a row, then, man, I am telling you, the Buccaneers are a team to watch out for as the year comes to an end. I guess, is it 5 games? So, wild card, divisional, and then conference. So, the Buccaneers, in theory, have 5 games left this year. Can they win 5 games in a row and win a Super Bowl? I think they could. Of any wild card team, the Buccaneers are the team that could win the Super Bowl. Now let's talk about the NFC East. Washington leads the division right now. They are 6-9. Now the Cowboys are also 6-9. They're second in the NFC East. But the reason why Washington is ahead of Dallas is because Washington beat Dallas twice this year. So if they finish with the same record, then Washington by default wins the division. Now the Giants are 5-10. And one of these 3 teams is going to make it into the playoffs via the route of winning the NFC East. So Washington this week plays at the Eagles, and I am picking Washington to win this game. Alex Smith, the Washington football team quarterback, has been out with an injury recently, and there's just no way Alex Smith, who's been on the cusp of playing, recently, he probably could have played last week if he really needed to. There is no chance Alex Smith does not play in this game. He's not going to skip a game with the playoffs on the line. He's going to play. It's going to be a fun game because the Eagles quarterback is a rookie quarterback, Jalen Hurts. He's really, really good, played very good football down the stretch. People look at his stat line from last week and not really understand that it doesn't fully represent his game. He had some late interceptions, forcing it, trying to mount a comeback. But he played some really good football last week, actually. And now Washington is a better team. They have a very good, I think, underrated defense. Washington should win this game. But Jalen Hurts could make it very, very interesting. Keep your eye on that game. But Washington, especially if Alex Smith is playing, should win this game on Sunday. And as a result, by the way, win the NFC East, make the playoffs. Now, the Cowboys at Giants, if Washington wins, then it really does not matter who wins the Cowboys-Giants game because both of them would be eliminated anyway. But if Washington loses, then this game is incredibly important because it will decide the NFC East and who gets into the playoffs via winning that division. And it's going to be a bloodbath in the NFC East. So Cowboys at Giants, I have no prediction. I have no idea. I'm not a shaman. I'm not a tarot card reader. I don't predict the future. But I don't want to just guess. I don't want to be like, wow, I'm going to pick the Giants and then I have no reason. Like, I don't have a reason to pick either team. The Cowboys played very good football last week against Philadelphia. Andy Dalton looked good. Their offense looked in sync. But the Giants' defense is also very solid and has made some good plays all year. So I'm just very curious how, really at the end of the day, how does the Giants quarterback Daniel Jones play? He's the wild card in this game. Can Daniel Jones play well enough to beat the Cowboys in a must-win game and potentially get his team into the playoffs? I don't think so, but we'll find out. So either way, it's an amazing must-win game for both teams, and I cannot wait to watch the Cowboys and the Giants. I think I'll keep my eye. I'll be tracking Washington, but probably actually watching the Giants-Cowboys game. I'm so excited and so fascinated for this weekend. Now, Saints and Panthers. The Saints are a better team. I'm curious, though, if Carolina can pull off the upset. Now, the Saints need to win in order to have an opportunity or a chance or a shot at the number one seed in the NFC. Remember, that's a good incentive because if you get the number one seed in the NFC, you have a bye week, and you have home field advantage in the playoffs. So the Saints, I get that they're fighting really hard for that kind of incentive. They want the bye week. They want the home field advantage. But I really hope that New Orleans does not regret that they're not going to rest their starters. If, God forbid, Drew Brees get injured in this game and it wrecks your entire playoff run, or what if a key member of the offensive line or a defender, I just would hate to see somebody on the New Orleans Saints get injured this week in a game that they really, their fate depends on the Green Bay Packers losing. I don't like those odds, and I'm really nervous and hesitant that the Saints are not resting their starters. I get why you're not doing it. You do have a shot at the number one seed, but I don't know if it's worth it if someone gets hurt, and I just keep your eye on that. And now Christian McCaffrey's not playing for Carolina, but I think this is a risky game, and I don't feel good about the Saints not resting their starters. The Carolina Panthers could win this game, and if I'm the Saints, man, Taysom Hill's the starting quarterback against Carolina, and I'm not putting Drew Brees out there. I'm not putting any key players on defense or offense out there, but they're going to do it, and I really hope nobody on New Orleans' team gets injured on Sunday. Now, the Cardinals and the Rams are 9-6. The Cardinals are 8-7. Arizona needs to win for a chance at the playoffs. They have to go 9-7 to make it in. Now, there's actually a weird reality where if the Bears lose the game and the Cardinals win, then actually both the Cardinals and the Rams could get into the playoffs. It's kind of a weird scenario, but that's actually possible. Now, the Rams have lost 2 in a row. Jared Goff has looked very, very bad recently, their starting quarterback. Now, John Wolford's actually playing this week for the Rams. Part of why Jared Goff looked bad is because he's been hurt and injured, and he's getting surgery. He's not going to play this week. John Wolford is going to play for the LA Rams this week. You would think then the Cardinals are going to win. They're playing a backup quarterback. John Wolford's not a slouch. I mean, he played very well in the Alliance of American Football, playing for the Salt Lake Stallions, and I believe that's who he played for. Maybe it's Arizona. I think he actually played for the Arizona Hotshots, now that I think about it. He was a Hotshots player for Arizona. But John Wolford can play. And not that great, but I don't have a lot of confidence in the Arizona Cardinals either. They just lost to the 49ers. DeAndre Hopkins was kind of a non-factor in that game. Had multiple opportunities downfield that didn't make plays. And, I mean, the Cardinals got stopped a lot by the 49ers last week in key situations, and the Rams have a good defense. So it's weird, though, that I really have no confidence in either team because of their bad performances recently. A backup quarterback's playing in this game, and one of these teams, maybe both, is going to get into the playoffs, but I don't care. It's a weird situation where, the Cardinals probably win. They have fewer injuries, and it's a meaningful game with playoff implications, but I don't care because really the reality is I don't have confidence in the Rams or the Cardinals. If they get into the playoffs, they're not going to win a Super Bowl, so while it's got playoff ramifications, I just don't care about this game. I'm picking the Cardinals to win, I guess, but I'm not emotionally moved or drawn into this game at all, not even in the slightest. The Seahawks and the 49ers, The Seahawks are 11-4. They're currently the number 3 seed in the NFC. Mathematically, they still have a shot to get the number 1 seed in the NFC. They would need to have New Orleans lose and Green Bay lose, and then they need to beat the 49ers and win. I don't like those odds. You're relying on too many other factors that are not in your control. And so if I was Seattle, I would rest my starters. They're not doing that, but very similar to New Orleans, God forbid anybody on the Seattle Seahawks starting roster gets hurt. Starting lineup, excuse me. If they have anybody get injured, DK Metcalf, Russell Wilson, a key player on the offensive line, Chris Carson, man, it's scary. So the game makes me uneasy. I really don't know who wins. Probably Seattle wins this game against the 49ers, but the 49ers are playing very, very hard, playing good football recently. They're on a third-string quarterback, and they beat Arizona last week. And I really hope nobody gets hurt for Seattle on Sunday in a game where I think you should arrest your starters, and you really should not fight for a number 1 seed because there are too many factors out of your control in order for that to happen and take place. Jets and Patriots. It's a weirdly interesting game where the Jets are out of playoff contention, the Patriots out of playoff contention. Normally a game like that, I'm like, I don't really care at all. But it feels like the Jets have a legitimate shot to beat the Patriots. The Jets have won 2 in a row, and I don't feel comfortable picking a winner because the Jets are playing well. The Patriots have not been playing well, and the Patriots are a mess. They need to rebuild this offseason and retool a lot of stuff and make some moves and bring in new players. And so I would not be shocked if the Jets beat the Patriots on Sunday, but we'll see what happens, and I'm really curious and interested in how things go down the road. Now, the final 3 Week 17 games are kind of meaningless. I will say briefly, the Raiders and Broncos is interesting because the Raiders are on a skid at the end of the year. And the Broncos, man, Jerry Jeudy and Drew Lock, rookie receiver Jerry Jeudy from Alabama, Drew Lock, your young quarterback, they cannot connect. They've been horrible at they've been out of sync and, not on the same page all year. And Jerry Jeudy had a lot of drops last week. So really, if you're watching Denver's game, I guess I wasn't going to care because neither team is in playoff contention. However, keep your eye on Drew Lock, keep your eye on Jerry Jeudy. Jerry Jeudy had a really, really awful game last week. Dropped a touchdown, dropped a couple passes. He needs to have a good game to bounce back and finish the year strong. Now, the Vikings-Lions, I don't care. Both teams are eliminated from the playoffs. Matthew Stafford, I don't believe is playing. He got hurt last week. And then the Chargers-Chiefs is a game where you watch for Justin Herbert. That'll be fun, I guess. But the Chiefs are resting all their starters. They already have clinched the number 1 seed in the AFC. They're resting their starters. So Vikings, Lions, Raiders, Broncos, Chargers, Chiefs are probably the worst games of the week. But I tried to give you an effective reason why you should watch for Justin Herbert, watch for how Drew Lock does, and then I watch for Justin Jefferson with the Minnesota Vikings. He's a fun rookie receiver who I like to watch. Guys, that's all I have for Week 17. I'm really, really excited to watch how the week finishes out, and I hope you enjoy watching football this weekend. It's going to be an amazing weekend. Enjoy football.